Welcome to Butterflies of Wisdom, everyone. And today, not only do you have me, you have the fabulous Jenn Taylor with me. And Jenn Taylor is the founder of Moms Running It. And so without further ado, I'm going to let Jenn explain why she started her blog. And yes, I said blog, not podcast. So let's get the steps straight before we begin. This is a blog, not a podcast. Moms Running It is a blog. But I'm going to let Jenn take it away.
Thank you. Moms Running It was born about 5.5 years ago. And I started writing the blog because you come in contact with people and we all have a story. And mine's unique to me. And when you start sharing your story with people, they would say, you should really write about this. And writing was what I wanted to do back since I had a writing class my senior year of high school in 1988 when I graduated, way before computers. And I didn't do it because it was so difficult to kind of become the up-and-coming or to make money as a writer back in the late 80s, early 90s. So I had a passion for it. So I started writing kind of my life and my story. And my daughter, who just turned 21 at the time, it was 5.5 years ago, she said, you should call it Moms Running It because you run everything. I am a runner,
boy.
so yeah.
Smart kid. Smart kid.
Smart, yes, smart kid. It was kind of true, though. I've worked for the last 12 plus years, and I raised a family, and 18 children have been in my house, and I count the 18. It's hard to count how many kids I have. It's almost different every day. But I chose 18 because those are the kids that have lived with me that I've raised for 3 or more years. So I just kind of had to set the prerequisite somewhere. And like right now I have 6 kids in high school. And, so I did foster care, and I definitely ran the house. Before I worked, I homeschooled, so I ran that.
Okay, Jenn, I'm going to stop you here for 2 minutes and have you repeat that number. How many kids do you have?
18.
18.
There's 18 total that have. Well, I
heard that number, and the reason why I stopped you is because I wanted my listeners to hear it again.
Yeah, that's a big number, and there was no plan. There's no plan. So that's just kind of where it ended. I did foster care for 12 years, so I have adopted kids. I have birth children. I have stepchildren. I have children who were foster children that aged out with me or that I had for extended periods of time. And that's the compilation. And to me, they're all the same. They're either, once you're one of the kids, you're one of the kids. So I don't love them differently or feel differently. I did foster care because I was one of those kids that grew up that way. I did not go into foster care. I should have. So I have lived through in my childhood every single thing that these kids had been exposed to. And I had a 3rd grade teacher that was the first and most pivotal person in my life that made a positive difference. And, she was just being a teacher in 3rd grade. I went back and met her about 16 years ago. I found her again in Rhode Island where I grew up, and I met her. And she didn't remember me. I didn't stand out to her when I got in touch and I talked. And that was better, actually. She was just being herself, doing her job, making a difference. It wasn't anything in particular about me, but it was so pivotal to me that as I got older and worked through those cycles of abuse and became a healthier adult, I wanted to turn around and pay it forward, so to speak. So I chose foster care because those were the kids that I could relate to. I understood sexual abuse and physical abuse and emotional abuse and being neglected and being hungry and being way below poverty and feeling worthless and stupid. And I understood all of it. And so when they came into my house, I had that connection with them. And I knew from my teacher in third grade when I was 8 or 9, you know, that you can make a really enormous impact in the life of another person over a short duration of time without even realizing that you're trying. And so that's kind of how, so the blog was just me writing about what's it like to have a family with all these kids and foster kids and be pregnant. I went through infertility. I had 3 miscarriages. I had a hysterectomy at 33. A lot of things that women go through that we kind of don't talk about, and I wanted to talk about them. And so the blog's a little lighthearted. I'm also a published author. So I have a book that was released last August, and that's called Hello, My Name is Warrior Princess, and it's a self-help memoir about my life growing up. So it's kind of all the background on me up until I started having kids, and the blog's kind of my day-to-day life. And so that kind of led me into a job working in foster care, and I was the program supervisor, so I did all the training and I did all the outreach, and I helped these parents who were foster parents because I was done being a foster parent at that point. And I did a lot of public speaking because I had the story. I had the success story that you want to tell so that people who are thinking about doing foster care, you know, their heartstrings are touched and they want to do it because they could make a difference in a child's life who could turn around and be a success story like I am. And through all of that public speaking and community outreach, I started doing coaching. And so definitely the moms running it is a small part of a bigger picture. I have a website called JennTaylor.net that you can't get on right this second because we're working on it some more, where you can sign up so I can do coaching for you, and it's one-on-one. And because those issues, those women's issues about raising children, and you know, when you meet a bunch of people and you meet someone and you think, oh, they kind of rub me the wrong way, we don't ever have to see them again, right? Or if we see them, we can keep it limited. But what happens when you have a child, whether you give birth to the child or adopt a child, and you just really don't get along very well, and you can't just ignore them at the party. You have to still be their parent. And there's so much that women kind of shove down and don't talk about, and I want that voice to be heard. It's okay to talk about miscarriages, and it's okay to talk about infertility, and it's okay to talk about divorce and being a single parent, and homeschooling or minimalism or working through a divorce or being on your own or being sexually abused. And so I wanted to have, I guess, a platform for women to be able to feel like, you know what, there's nothing wrong with any of this. And I'm okay talking about it. So it's similar to talking about a disability. And I have a son who's autistic, or not talking about it is not the answer. We want to be open and talk about it, get the word out, and we want to heal. And we also want to be the best version of ourselves that we can possibly be. And so we can't do that if we don't have some sort of help working through some of the issues or the baggage or the weight that we carry, or the disability, or the elephant in the room, whatever that may be. So that's it's kind of morphed. It's an accident. It's always an accident, just like your podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely agree with you. I definitely agree with you, Jen, that all my fans know I have hemiplegia cerebral palsy. All my fans know they can come to me and ask me questions about cerebral palsy, including you, Jen. And
yeah.
So, yeah, which we'll get to in a minute. But talk to me about raising 18 kids and several of them with special needs.
Oh, well, I've never had 18 at one time. I think the most that I've ever had at one time is 12. And well, think about Thanksgiving. So when people plan for Thanksgiving and they say, I'm going to have, 10 to 20 people at my house for dinner. Now, Thanksgiving, there's a lot of preparation. You're cooking in a way that is not normal to how you cook, but I cook for 15 people every day. So
15 people.
yeah, because the kids have friends over, and there are adults there sometimes, and up to I can cook for 15 people at the drop of the hat. If you said to me, hey, there's going to be 15 people here in an hour, they're all going to be hungry, I wouldn't even bat an eye. And so I think I honestly don't know how to cook for 2 people. It's very confusing to me at this point because through foster care, I had a lot of kids in my house all the time, and I was having my own kids and adopting kids and having foster kids and then kids' friends and homeschool groups. And back when the kids were real little, we'd trade off. Those of us that were homeschooling, one would do science and the other would do history, and we would rotate. So we'd get a break from our kids because it's not always rainbows and unicorns. Parenting is the hardest job I've ever done, and it's the least revered. People, somehow there's some stigma about being a stay-at-home mom, like you're less than, and holy cow, that's because no one else wants that job and people couldn't afford to pay for it. So,
Exactly.
I think you get used to things one thing at a time. And I kind of got used to it, maybe a couple at a time, but I got used to it. It's like putting the frog in the cold water and letting it boil. You don't put it in the hot water. No one can imagine cooking for 10 to 15 people every single day for years and making that work and keeping a budget and doing the menu planning and the shopping. But it's not like you have to start doing that today and you've never done it before. So I got used to it slowly. I acclimated slowly. Having said that, 12, more than, I have to, it just depends on how you count them, but 12 of them were born in 10 and a half years. So, and there are more than that. There are kids that age out of foster care and a stepchild in there. So there's probably closer to 15 of those kids, 16 of those kids that were born within like an 11-year span. So I had a lot of children at the same ages. So it was kind of like running a school.
Oh God.
But they were mine.
I'm in education, and I want to send these kids home at the end of the day. You can't.
That's
these
it.
kids home at the end of the day.
Right.
Jeez.
Right. And so that's hard. So you become organized and structured, and you have systems in place that work. And my systems aren't necessarily what would work for someone else, but you kind of just figure out a way. You always have 3 or 4 kids sharing a room. There are pros and cons to everything. I wouldn't want to have an only child who was spoiled because I think that's so opposite of how I raised my kids. They all shared. They all helped. They all had we had a chore wheel. You didn't get paid for chores. We all did them because we were part of a family, and dinners actually was for a while probably one of the more chaotic times. And then technology has been introduced in the last decade. And so that put a wrench in the gears as far as connecting with your kids. And I think we'd all probably agree with that. And so we have a no technology rule at dinner. And even when I was on call 24 hours with foster care, I still, for a half an hour, I figured even an emergency can wait. My kids deserve 30 minutes of my time, and they deserve to give me 30 minutes of their time. And that was the rule. And we all sat down together for dinner and kind of reconnected. Because I stopped homeschooling. I did end up going back to work. Things morph and change over time. The kids all started to get older and go to school. So dinner was it. Dinner was kind of the glue. And so this is a couple recommendations I have for anyone who's feeling a little disconnected, to anyone, even in a relationship with your partner. We did 2 different things. One is at dinner we would do something called high-low. Low means it's something that happened to you in your day that kind of stunk, wasn't good, something that wasn't good. And I limited the kids to 1 because we don't want to sit around having very negative conversations. And if they wanted to expand on the negative stuff and really talk and were struggling, then that was a one-on-one conversation. But at the dinner table, 1 low, and then you could talk about as many highs as you wanted within a reasonable time limit. And I did that because I wanted the kids to know that what they're struggling with is very important and we need to talk about it and address it. But it's not the only thing, and that they need to have a focus on the positive things in their life. And so we would go around the table and everybody would get to talk about their day. And I learned a lot about my kids, but also in a relationship, when you're parenting a lot of kids and you're in a relationship with a partner, you kind of lose sight of yourself and you lose sight of each other. And so this sort of skill became really important in a variety of ways. The other thing we would do is we did questions. So I would Google search conversation starters. And it doesn't matter if it's speed dating questions or questions for elementary kids. I mean, basically, I cut them up and put them in a jar, and we have it still on our kitchen table, and we'd pass it around, and we would pull something out. We'd ask the question, if you could have any one superpower, what would it be? And it's just a matter of connecting with each other and initiating conversation. And that was huge, and dinner was huge, and no technology was huge, and then kind of everybody scattered and goes about their life, especially as they get older. Right now, I have a 7-year-old, but the next youngest child's 14. So my kids are all in high school or older at this point, and a lot of them have moved out. So I'm on the tail end. So that kind of kept the glue together when everyone started getting jobs and living different lives and having girlfriends or boyfriends or whatever happens in their life, track. So, and then you asked me about raising disabilities. So I adopted a son when he was 2. He's 18 now, 18 and a half. And back then, 16 and a half years ago, I don't think autism was really spoken about a lot. Now it's very mainstream. It's spoken about maybe in some ways too much. It's kind of like the diagnosis for anything that you can't figure out. And we knew there were issues with him. He was at 2, he was nonverbal. Developmentally, he was way behind. He had to have 4 surgeries on his ears because he was so neglected. It's really astounding. Like if we went over medical records and stuff, it's astounding he survived. So we had to get him healthy, which was 4 surgeries on his ears so he couldn't hear. So I used sign language with all of my kids. I knew maybe 50 signs, and my kids can sign before they can speak. So I had always done that. So he picked up sign language, and then we started getting him healthier, and we knew that there were going to be issues. We didn't know what they were going to be. And he's moderately autistic. He was actually officially diagnosed by the University of Nevada. They have one of 2 programs in the country that we were blessed to be able to bring him to really, for me, I don't care what box he's in or if he's outside the box. I just kind of need to know, and needing to know is more so that I can do the best job that I can to help him more than anything. And I have to say, I'm very brutally honest about this. Raising a child with autism that's moderate with a lot of anxiety and anger, and he was more time, effort, and energy than all the rest of the other kids put together.
I can imagine.
Yeah, and he moved 2 weeks ago to independent living because it was his best option. It gives him the best chance of autonomy. It gives him the best chance of having a quote-unquote normal life. I mean, that's not a great way to say it, but he sees his siblings having cell phones and laptops and moving on to college and having their own apartments, and he can't keep track of his glasses. Yeah. So he's not going to have that same normal life.
Okay. Now, back up. Explain
You got it?
To my listeners, I got it because I live the life of the disability. But explain to the laymen who are listening to this what independent living is, because I got it. I have a picture in my own head because I live with a disability. But for those who say, what is independent living?
Okay.
Could you explain it to my listeners?
Yep. So independent living is exactly the same as foster care. So I was a foster parent, so people came and checked out my house, and I took classes, and I had to be licensed at a certain level for different kids, different needs, and I had to have certain things set up, medications locked, for example. So there are all these criteria to be a foster parent, and part of that is checking your home and the safety and the space and all that stuff. And so independent living is exactly the same as that, except in this situation, independent living is for people who are not a child anymore. So you have to be 18, and you have to qualify. So the child has to qualify with some sort of disability. They need help. Autism is one of those, where they can live. So he has his own bedroom and shares a bathroom, and his foster parent or host parent has licensing and experience and skills working with children that have his disability. Where I got to be a parent of an autistic child with no experience and had to wing it and muddle through and figure out how to do it, he actually has training to work with him. And he's an adult. So it's independent living is how can you live on your own. So you think about, take that further when your grandmother or grandfather start to deteriorate in health and they can't do things for themselves. So you place them in a home. And like my grandmother lived in a home where she had her own bedroom and bathroom, but they ate in a cafeteria, so they didn't prepare their own food. And there are different levels to that retirement home depending on the level of care that that person needs. And so independent living is exactly the same. It goes from 18 years old until the point that they would need to move into some sort of retirement facility.
And what age would that be?
Well, there is no age. They say 18 plus. Like with every disability, there are all these little quirks, you know. So with some disabilities, maybe the lifespan is shorter for a person. So where my grandmother moved at 80, he would move at 60, you know. Independent living will last as long as it works well for him. And when and if his needs change, then we address that and figure out where a better fit is. So this was the ability to give him enough.
Thank you for explaining independent living to those who have just walked into this interview.
Right, exactly.
They may understand that I have cerebral palsy, but also they understand that I'm on a pulse of every disability under the sun, but yet I understand about independent living. They don't.
Right, absolutely. So that was hard. It took, honestly, any probably type of challenge with a child that takes away a lot of your time and effort. The rest of the family feels that, and it raised my children with a lot of empathy and compassion. They'll stick up for people now where maybe they would have on their own, but they know how to stick up for someone because they've stuck up for their brother. They know about priorities and how blessed they are, and about sharing and about giving. And so I wouldn't trade it for anything because, I learned more of all of those things too. I think whatever your higher power belief is, I think God hands you what you need. And whether I needed to learn or I needed to teach, as hard as that situation is, I'm not a big crier, but talking about Nicholas will probably, you could get me crying probably easier because it was so difficult. And I always wondered what I learned. But what that did for me as a parent was I'm a pretty extroverted, outspoken person. My first year of college, I got rated most outspoken. So, there you go. So I don't hold back. But sometimes we don't stick up for ourselves the same way we stick up for other things. And people make comments about me having a big family. And they're rude sometimes. And I learned to say things right back to them. And with a child with disabilities, I learned to be his number one advocate. And that was a great learning lesson because being outspoken is one thing, but being an advocate is something different entirely.
Yeah.
And so it was tough. It's tough. And independent living was tough. Yeah, moving him on was tough, and it was also, I honestly didn't want him to be 40 years old living on my couch. and not having the best life for him, and me still having an autistic child that I was caretaking living on my couch. It wasn't in my best interest, and it certainly wasn't in his best interest. And it takes a lot of guts, a lot of something, to sit back and admit this isn't the best option for either one of us, and I need to do the best option, and it's going to be hard. And I'm going to need to do it anyway. And I did. Yeah. And it's only been 2 weeks, but this is the first time in all the rest of my kids' lives that they have lived in a house without having a sibling with the disability that's really sucking all of the time and energy. I mean, really, it's a lot of work and constant contention.
It is.
So,
coming from my perspective, Jen, I mean, I know what I have to deal with on a daily basis, just living with cerebral-palsy, and I still live in the house I grew up in, and I still live with my dad, and I see what he goes through on a daily basis, and I just can't imagine you having all these kids, and then on top of it, let's just add the disability that changes from day to day, unlike cerebral-palsy.
Right. And I think there are some situations that would have worked better for him to live at home, like in your situation. I think you have to really cut it apart piece by piece and figure it out. And that was a tough decision. It was a really tough decision. And sometimes it's hard to do the right thing because you feel bad about it. It was the right thing for him to have this chance to live independently and have autonomy and have someone caretaking him that's like an uncle sort of personality, where he has that safety net of me always, but of this person that he lives with that's helping him, but giving him the chance to be as successful on his own as he's capable of being. It's hard to admit that that's not me. I mean, and it's not. It's not me. And we all want to be everything to everyone, and we're not. And so sometimes I think you have to take a step back and think, I'm not the right person for this job. And you know what? Not only am I not the right person, I don't know if I want the job. And as a parent, I mean, God, it's not like, honest, it's not even like, turning down a job at an office where this is your child it's the same thing with, my 21-year-old daughter, Olivia, is just an amazing woman. And she and I pretty much she was born not liking me. And I just really didn't particularly get her either. And, raising a child where you're like, I just really don't like you very much. And that's, there's stuff that we just never talk about. You think you're going to be a parent, you have all this joy and hope, and it's wonderful, and you're making a difference and an impact, and isn't going to be great. And then your 2-year-old is like, why can't you go to work and dad stay at home because I don't like you? And, there's all these things in life that happen where you have to decide, maybe I'm not the best for this job position, but I've got it, so I need to make it work. And the parent
make it work.
Yeah. So, I mean, in every situation you really have to break it down and take that step back as a parent and as an adult and as a human being and think, what's the best for everyone here involved, myself included, and probably as a mom, myself the least, but still myself included. And so, it's only been 2 weeks since he's been gone, so we still are so geared to have this kiddo who's got a high level of anxiety and anger and just be like the guardian all the time. It's like being in a watchtower all the time. And diffusing. And
I was just going to say that dealing with autism is like being on guard all the time because you never know what they're going to run into or how they're going to act.
Yeah, it's tough. So I mean that was challenging. But the other thing as far as being a woman and a mom and and we kind of just don't talk about certain things because they're tough things to talk about, or maybe we're embarrassed or uncomfortable or we don't know where to start. And because I have a voice and I haven't been afraid to use it, I thought, well, how can I continue to make this work for me? I can advocate for kids and be a foster parent, have these 18 kids that I have in one way or another raised. And, but how can I do more? Because the women on the front end, the front line, they're the ones that are going through it too. And so it was hard for me to realize that when you do an outline of your life, so you would do this outline of your life of everything that you've experienced, kind of a timeline, and you realize that you've gone through certain things that make you an expert. I'm not an expert on cerebral palsy because I haven't experienced it, but I know you are an expert on it. I know your dad's an expert on it. Yeah. I know I can learn it and understand it, right? And we can have a lot of really similar experiences or feelings, emotions, or baggage for completely different situations in our life. And where yours may have originated from the surgery in 2006, and mine originates from being sexually abused starting when I was 9. But even though they seem like worlds apart, they really aren't. We're really not worlds apart. We're really actually very close. And when you do your timeline, you have to take ownership of the fact that you are an expert. It doesn't mean you have a master's degree from a university with a piece of paper. It means you've earned it because you've lived it and you're an expert. And to take that and think, well, what do I want to do with this expertise and how do I want to gear it? And because I'm kind of moving out of the phase of raising kids and I'm not doing foster care anymore, I mean, you're always a parent, but my kids are getting older. The phase of my life the past couple of years is, gosh, what about all the women? I was one of those women struggling through all of that, and I put a lot of my time and effort and energy into these kids, which I have no regrets about, and it was wonderful. But what about all these women kind of hanging out to dry who have no one to talk to or no platform to discuss the stuff that's super hard that we just kind of don't talk about? Because heaven forbid we should say menstrual period on air and, people will cringe or, totally normal things. I've had kids who have had suicide attempts, who have been addicted to drugs, who have been abused outside of my home. You think you're going to take kids in and raise them and be this like soft place to land. And in the end, it comes at them from some other direction and you feel like, oh, I didn't protect them from that. How do you deal with all this tough stuff? Kids being sexually active and the potential of teenage pregnancy and being a mom and having your own miscarriages that you're dealing with and stuffing down and by the way, you're getting divorced again. And how does this stuff, where are you? And feeling that lost feeling. And so that's where I really started to re-gear myself, regroup, or refocus my attention because women should be talking, at least to women. If we can't talk to anyone else, we should at least band together. There's nothing more incredible than a woman walking into a room or coming into a room or speaking on a platform and being strong and confident and lovely and beautiful and energetic and passionate. And it doesn't matter what her weight is or what her disability is or any of that. But we should all kind of band together to help each other be more strong and more fierce and more wonderful, and instead of kind of coming at each other and attacking each other, which is what I see a lot of, and that seems pretty sad. So
yeah. Now let's talk about homeschooling here for 2 milliseconds. I am not an expert in homeschooling. I applaud the people that do it. I'm an expert in the special ed system and of a public school / a private school / a college and / 2 colleges actually, soon to be 3. And I know more about special ed than I know about homeschooling. So my first question to you is there a special ed program for homeschooling or no?
I'm sure there is. I didn't get that far.
You didn't get that far.
I liked homeschooling my children when I liked the preschool ages and the younger ages. I felt like reading, being a very strong reader was kind of the foundation of everything, including math problems, science. You can't love anything or learn about it if you don't know how to read. So I actually lived in Alaska. I lived there for 10 years, and that's where I did 9 out of 12 years of my foster care was in Alaska, and most of my adoptions were there. Alaska has a really great program for people who want to homeschool because so many people live outside of communities, outside of cities. And so I felt super passionate that I wanted my kids to have a very strong foundation in reading. The other part of that is that there are different schooling options in different places, and there was a schooling option where I was that was 2nd to 8th grade combined. There were 24 kids and 2 teachers in the 2nd to 8th grade. So what happened was the kids could all go at their own pace. So whether they were behind or ahead, it didn't matter. They were just working. And the older kids shadowed the younger kids. And so it kind of was the same philosophy as how I was raising my children at home, where you have a big family and you learn to share and you help each other and you work together and you kind of go at your own pace, but you work hard. So I loved this school so much, the 2nd to 8th grade. It's kind of like the little red schoolhouses of old.
Oh boy.
Yeah. There's pros and cons to all of that, right? But it was very cutting edge, and the kids that were coming out of 8th grade were coming out testing out of high school. So they were coming out of 8th grade and going directly into a high school program that offered college credit. So clearly they were doing something really well because they were allowing these kids to really pace themselves and work together. It was very collaborative. So my plan was to homeschool my kids for kindergarten and 1st grade. And my biggest focus was teaching them how to be very, very strong readers. And that's what I did. They did lots of other stuff, and it was a very great, solid, supportive homeschooling community. So we had activities all the time. They actually paid us to homeschool, and we had to meet certain criteria. And so it was one of the best systems that I've ever seen as far as schooling kids because we had so many options. So my son, who's autistic as far as special needs, he went into a special education program when he moved into kindergarten. I had moved from Alaska to Nevada, and I didn't have the same options anymore. I was divorced at that point, and I was working again. So my life changed completely. I had 9 kids at home at that point, and he was entering kindergarten, and definitely by then, I had done as much as I could, because kids can learn how to read before we're teaching them how to read if you just, put the tools in front of them and work with them. They're all at their own pace. So where one may learn at 4 and the other learns at 6, but they still learn to read really well, so who cares? So I predominantly homeschooled my kids when they were younger. I have had kids that have homeschooled in high school. Since then, I have one that's already out of school that homeschooled through part of her high school, and I have 2 now that are doing that again. Again, it's changed so much because technology's changed so much. So they have a lot of hybrid systems now. So for special education, for example, my daughter's taking her cooking class and her ceramics class at the high school, and then she comes home and she does everything else from home on an online program. So I'm there, I'm her teacher, but she has resources. Because honestly, I can't do calculus anymore. I can't do it. I couldn't teach you how to do it again. So kids hit this point where they're learning. So for special ed, yes, I know that there are options to do that. I worked with preschool and kindergarten, and then I kind of got into the special education system myself. But I think for homeschooling, you have to have a family. You have to.
I'm going to ask you this question. Walking into the special education system in kindergarten, how were you treated as a parent?
As a parent, I have had only one complaint with any teacher. With every child I've had and every child that's gone through school, I could only complain about one experience I had with one teacher ever. So this is how I feel about the school system in general. It doesn't matter if your kids are special ed or mainstreamed or on a fast track or taking college credits in high school. It really makes no difference. What does make a difference is that you're a parent and you parent your children and you talk to those teachers. Because the biggest travesty in the school system now is that the parents are worse than the kids and the kids are atrocious. So
say that again. I heard you, but I want my listeners to hear that.
The parents are worse than the kids and the kids are atrocious. And the kids are atrocious because I don't think parents really interact with their children anymore. And so I'm going to do a lot of not politically correct talking. I was a very, very involved parent of all my children. You know, I had home births and I homeschooled the primary years and I breastfed for 11 years. I was very hands-on. I'm not one of the helicopter parents that wants to be involved in everything. I'm probably a little bit more militant in my parenting. And I'm very into accountability, and I think that's part of what makes good parenting. Your kids need to be accountable for themselves. And my kids know that it's totally okay. I get wanting to experiment. I mean, how often, Wynn, have you thought, man, wouldn't smoking a joint and checking out a life be a lot of fun right now? But if I don't do it, you don't do it. And if you do it, then you have consequences. So I've had to call the police several times. Like I said, I've had kids that have done drugs and that have stolen. And I am the parent that looks at the police officer and says, what is the biggest consequence we can give them? And I'm happy to cuff them and put them in the back of your car myself. Because as much as I love them, if you want to play with the big boys, then you need to live with the big boys. And so I don't think parents are interacting with their kids anymore from a young age. And I don't think breastfeeding made me like corner the market on that. I loved being a mom. And I was proud to be a mom. And I took in everybody else's kids who couldn't raise them, who were a total frickin' disaster, and who had been sexually abused and physically abused and gone through being locked in a closet and starved for days. And I took them, and I raised them, because somebody needs to let these kids know that they're worth it and that they're loved no matter what. And parents need to interact with their kids more, and they need to not be the biggest part of the problem in the school system. So I have never had a negative experience. I had an IEP meeting today. My son's going from 8th grade to 9th grade. So I picked him up at the junior high school. We went to the high school, and we had the transition meeting. And I said, here's my issue with this situation. He's a smart kid who doesn't want to try and has a speech problem. He has no disability. His disability is that he doesn't want to do the work that it takes to get good grades, and he's leaning on the system. And I'm here to tell you he's out in 4 years, and we have to decide right now what kind of adult we want to be putting out into the world. And in my mind, I want to be putting out an adult into the world that wants to work hard and wants to do well and doesn't want to feel like he can use his speech impediment as a crutch and realizes that he's smart and he's valuable and he's worth it. And so I'm going to advocate for him, but I'm also going to kick his butt. And I will 150% of the time be on the side of the teacher. 150. So my kids know if your teacher tells me, now you're getting, yeah.
Thank you for,
yeah.
And can you come and teach my parents this, who I educate, who I teach their kids? Jeez.
Then it's disgusting. The parents are the problem.
Yeah. Could you come?
The parents are the problem. End of story.
My kids, parents, because I'm like, oh, come on, you guys. Come on.
Yeah.
They Marty call their kids like there's no tomorrow, and I'm like, hello. I am trying to teach. Step out of the classroom if you're not going to help me teach your kids.
Right. You're spending more time during the week than I am. I mean, as a teacher, you spend more time with my kids than I do during the week. The worst thing that I could do is be your enemy and be a thorn in your side. And my kids know, you're going to get in trouble at school, and if it gets to me, you have the ability to look at that teacher and apologize and work through stuff and get a better grade and retake the test and say you're sorry and do extra work and stay after school. Because if I get the phone call or the email, then you're getting kicked twice. So to speak.
Yeah.
We can't really kick them anymore. But, you're going to get in trouble at school, and then you're going to get in trouble at home.
Yeah. No.
So, yeah, the parents are the problem. There's not a question.
I had, now I can share the story completely. I had a kid not pay attention to what he was doing. Now, granted, this child had a physical disability and a vision disability too. So, and everyone knew that he had a physical disability due to his vision problems. He fell on top of me, and now granted, I'm sitting on a visor, and he toppled over on top of me. And this kid didn't say, I'm sorry, and this kid didn't say, his parents didn't say, I'm sorry either, for falling on the teacher. And I'm like, shit. And then I had another kid step on my walker, and then the teacher, the lead teacher, goes, what do you say to Miss Wynn? And they know by vote to say I'm sorry, and this kid just looked at me. And I'm thinking, you little smart aleck, you know what to say to Miss Wynn or any teacher. I'm sorry. But no. Do these kids say that? No.
Right. Yeah, I feel like, technology is one of the blessings and curses in our lives now because we're so, it's wonderful, but we're so disconnected from people around us trying desperately to connect to people online. And anytime you walk into a store, you see everybody staring at their phone, standing around each other, not even making eye contact with each other anymore, but like desperately attempting to connect through some sort of social media. And I think if people would just look up every now and then and interact, I think we're kind of forgetting some of that. And there's some etiquette that we're losing, and there's some interaction. And, the world is a tougher place now. Back when I was in high school, the drugs now are not the same as they were then. They're subjected to things that they weren't. And technology opened the world up, too. So there are no real secrets going on. And it's not a bad thing, or doesn't have to be a bad thing, but I think that parents are not accountable anymore, and there's all these excuses why, and basically it's because we're really just not accountable. We're not interacting, and so blame it on the teacher. Isn't that easy? Blame it on the internet, blame it on the drugs, blame it on that. But you still have to parent your kids. You still
have to parent your kid. And this is my PSA, and all teachers out there would agree with me. If you walk in to my classroom, I expect you to parent your kid. That goes into effect as of next September. You hear me? That goes into effect as of next September. You walk into my class, you introduce yourself. You don't look at me at the end of the year and say, who the heck are you, when as a parent goes, yay for Miss Wynn. Thank you very much. I had a parent do that. The other parent, she was crazy. Thank you. And I knew that this parent was going to do this because she was really invested in her son's education. And she worked with my colleague privately. My colleague teaches piano. So she saw my colleague on a weekly basis as her son learned piano. And so she took a piano class too. And so she got the double-edged sword. But she knew I had a disability. And so at the end of the year, when we have our little parent assembly to show our spring performance, this particular parent, when my colleague goes at the beginning, I would like to thank Wynn for keeping me on task and helping me. This particular parent says out loud, yay, Wynn. Yay for the And I knew she was going to do that because, as I said, she was really invested in her son's education. And the rest of the parents looked at her like, you're nuts. You're nuts. And I'm like, I almost gave the rest of the parents the dirty looks. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, you're trying not to interact with me, not to teach your kids about diversity, thank you very much.
That's right.
It drives me nuts. It drives me nuts. And
It
so,
should. It should drive you nuts.
well,
It's ridiculous.
So when you, like my mom was, and at the IEP meetings, she would speak up her minds and help the teachers, help educate me, because
That's right.
would be there too. And so these teachers would look at my mom like, this is a new person. We have never had this person help us educate the child. And
I think as a parent, the parent should know the child better than anyone else, right? So you'd be the best advocate for them. Yeah.
Hello? But they would like to fight us at the and I apologize for talking to myself. They would like to fight us every step of the way, then wonder why they look at us like we're crazy at the end of the year.
Right.
Oh my God. So
I know.
back to you. Where can people find you? And where can people find your blog? And where can people find, hello, my name is Princess Warrior, and all that good stuff?
So you can find me. I have a website that's up. It's called momsrunningit.com. And momsrunningit.com, you can find any social media. But all social media, the problem is that I have a common name. So it's Jenn, Jenn Taylor. On Facebook, I'm pretty much everything. I'm under Jenn Taylor. Momsrunningit.com is kind of a dormant site. You can contact me through there. You can find all my social media through there. It's a place of information. JennTaylor.net is a website that if you want more interaction, any way you get in touch with me, I'm going to answer you. You can email me or Facebook message me, and I'll get back to you. But JennTaylor.net will be where my coaching is. And that should be up any day now. So
you have that hooked up to momsrunningit.com.
Yeah, that's my website. And so from there you can get on every social media. You can go to my blog from that. You can learn about my book. You can contact me through it. But you have access to all my social media, and that's generally what people do is you email me or you Facebook message or something. Hello, my name is Warrior Princess. You can buy on Amazon. I don't have the ebook done yet. It's just a matter of getting it done. You have to actually order the physical book. But that's on Amazon. You search Jenn Taylor under books or Hello, my name is under books, and it comes up. And you just order it on Amazon. And if you do that, make sure you send me a message that you read it and give a review. And I don't care if the review is good or bad. I just really like the feedback. But social media is such a great way to get in touch with people that any way you do that, if you want me to do a workshop or a public speaking event or a coaching package and you want to learn more about that, you just have to contact me. And then when JennTaylor.net goes live again, when it's up and running and not under construction, that is the easiest, best way to do it. But until then, there's so many ways to find people. Through you. They can find me through you.
Through me. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Listen to the podcast.
Phone number through my podcast. Yeah. If you guys have my phone number, I can give you Jenn's direct phone number.
Yeah. Yep, I use the same one. My phone number's listed on my Facebook, everything,
Yeah. My phone number is listed all over the place, too. My number is So if any of you guys are listening and want to support Jenn or I, just reach out to me and I can help you with that. I can be the liaison. And then I want to have Jenn turn the mic on me, and before I let her go, and ask me a couple of questions that she has prepared. And yes, she's not the expert on cerebral palsy. So this is what she said to me via text. Can I ask you these questions? And I said yes. So I want Jenn to ask me these questions.
So when cerebral palsy is different than autism, when people look at my son, they don't necessarily notice immediately that something's different. And so when you're out in public, when you're doing things and going about your life, how do you wish people would talk to you or treat you or say things compared to how they do?
Compared to how they do? I wish and this goes from autism to being paralyzed, I wish they would come up and ask me what they wanted to ask me instead of loudly saying behind my back, why is that person in a walker? Or why is that person standing funny? Or why is that person waiting and standing funny? And it's like, talk to the individual with the disability.
Right. So it's never uncomfortable for you to have someone ask you a direct question. It's more uncomfortable to have them pretend you're not there.
Correct. And talk to the adult who's with me, which they still do. And I am going to be 30 years old.
Gee, that's old.
22nd. I'm going to be 30 years old June 22nd. And they still talk to the adult as if I'm not there.
And I don't like that with my own children. That's not a disability issue, I don't think. I mean, anytime somebody's standing there, if I have a child standing there, why are you asking me? You can ask. I mean, I understand there's a level of respect in a stranger having a conversation, but if I'm there, you're not going to touch her. So, you should never ignore the person that you're talking about, like you don't exist, like in the third person. Almost. Okay, that was one of my questions. I was pretty sure that was your answer, but my other question is, talk to me about dating and getting married and having kids. Can you? Do you want to? Is it scary?
I can, but I think I can, and it scares me, and I want to, and I can, but I think the next step, if I ever have that feeling, is I am going to be like you, Jenn, and pluck someone out of either the foster care system or the adoption system.
So that's more of a heartstring thing.
I have trouble taking care of myself. And so So I have trouble taking care of myself. So I need a child that, I don't care if he's a cute kid or not, but I need a child that can be semi-independent. I also want some man who's not reliant on me.
Got it. Well, amen, sister.
I can't be anyone's nurse. Thank you very much.
All right.
I can't be anyone's nurse. So, yes, I want to get married. Yes, I want to date. Yes, I want to have kids. But I think so, and after this conversation today, my desire to adopt is even more powerful after talking to you, Jenn, honestly, because I think so many foster kids are in the system who are being neglected and pushed on drugs, and especially older kids, and especially kids with disabilities.
Right, which would be that's a great point, and that's true.
Everyone wants to adopt the cute babies who are normal. Nope.
Well, they don't really exist. Let's squash that idea. That does not exist,
yeah.
especially.
Squash that idea today. Thank you.
Yeah, no.
Thank you.
People having normal children are the ones raising them. So
yeah, that's my feelings on that.
What is the most difficult part of dating for you? Is it meeting people? Is it answering questions? Are you shy? Is it the disability or is it personality? What is it? How is it different for you than someone else?
It's physically meeting people.
Yeah,
because it's physically meeting people, and based on where I live too. And I live in Aspen, Colorado, and it's not kids my age, and I don't want to go online. I mean, I have been chased by someone for 7 years, and they wanted to date me, and it's like, nope, he's too this particular person is too reliant on me, and I don't want that. Thank you very much. I don't want that. This particular person is too reliant on me.
Right. I am so excited I got to ask. I was really excited about this.
That. I know. By the way, you guys, she sent my assistant a text saying, "Can I ask these questions?" And it's like, yes, please.
Yes.
I am.
Yes, please.
So anyone, this goes for anyone that comes on my podcast who is an expert in cerebral palsy, ask me anything, and I can just talk about anything from medication to dating to podcasting to writing books. So you guys know I am an open book.
Well, I wondered, I guess, about the pregnancy issue, too, because I understand enough about cerebral palsy to know that, like, everything works fine for you. That wasn't my question. It was more wondering if physically it would, like, how uncomfortable would it be for you? I mean, pregnancy is not the most comfortable thing anyway, but, like, would it actually physically be difficult for you and to give birth? And is that something that you would have to decide to not do because your body works differently?
I have trouble walking to begin with. So me and pregnancy don't mix. Although if I went down, well, I would have to go see a specialist who specializes in cerebral palsy, because cerebral palsy is not genetic. So
no, it's not. So there's no issue there. It's just more your body being able to do it.
I didn't get it from my own family, so I could have an able-bodied kid. I could have an able-bodied kid, but so I would have to go see a specialist, and yes, I would have a C-section. I would not have a natural birth. And so, just like my mom had, she had a C-section with me because I was premature, and that's the only way they could do it.
Right.
And so, yeah, I could get pregnant. Would it be easy? No. Would it be a doctor's nightmare? I would hope. But would I prefer to adopt someone out of the system? Yes. And that's been my ultimate mission since I started having my cycle at age 12 and 13, is to someone out of the system.
Right. Which is great. I mean, that's great anyway, but it's even better knowing that it would be difficult. So if you really wanted to give birth to children biologically, and you knew it would be difficult, that would be a hard thing to work through emotionally. But the fact that you've come to terms with all of it on your own, you can just be more compassionate about doing it in another way. Because I'm telling you, once they're in your house, it doesn't make a difference.
I have heard that over the years.
It doesn't make a difference.
Doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, it doesn't make a difference. You love them all the same. Yay! I got to interview you. All right.
You do. Yes, you did. And
yep.
Jen, I appreciate you sharing your story, and I'm sorry to all my listeners who really got a taste of me, who weren't expecting it, but I think it had to come out somehow, because I knew Jen was going to be open and honest with her story, and I knew this going in. And I thought, okay, I have to be open and honest with mine. I can hide anything. So I'm sorry if we got on educational tangent.
Nope. Love it.
Guys. Nope. Love it. Jen loves it. And
I love it.
Know that education is my strong point. She don't know that education is my soapbox, and I can't get me out of it. So I hope you guys enjoy another fabulous episode with Jen, the founder of Moms Running It. And this podcast is sponsored by Grace by Grit. Grace by Grit is giving you a 20% off code. They are based out of San Diego, California. And you can find more information in the show notes, whereupon I will put all Jen's information. And if I could even come up with it, I will even put a link to, hello, my name is Princess Warrior. Or you can go Amazon, search it, and get it 2 days time. But as Jen and I discussed with her book, I would like you to go look up my books. And if you just type in Win, W-I-N, Kelly, K-E-L-L-Y, Charles, my books will pop up. And they're all on Kindle. Some of them are on audio tape. And I'm working on a new one coming out August 12th. So that should be an interesting experience. And please, 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 if you pick up any independent book from independently published author, please leave a review. It just helps Amazon's rankings, you guys. And so I hope you guys enjoy another fabulous episode. Thanks to you guys.